that the blood pressure is low, what does it do? It conserves water and does not excrete it like it should. So this whole system is a very finely tuned system that is controlled, as always, by the brain. So again, the key is information transfer. The key is always communication. We've said this over and over again in our classes. We can't overstate the importance. Okay, and I just show this picture here. This is again from our class on the human brain, but to show that the two main ways by which information is transferred are through the nervous tissue, and these are both nerves, nerve endings, and through hormones actually latching onto cells via receptors. Now, whether it's a nervous tissue or whether it's the cells via receptors, all these cells, to receive information, have to have receptors. And what are receptors made up of? Remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. Receptors are all made up of the sugars called glyconutrients, about 8 of them, only 8 different kinds of sugars that make up receptors. And these stalks there actually stand for the proteins or the fat. So they could call this whole thing a glycoprotein or a glyco sugar, a glycolipid. These act as receptors. It's kind of like your sense organs in the body. The sense organs have to be able to receive information and transmit it to the brain, both sense organs within the body and sense organs without the body. They have to transmit that information to the brain. If your brain receives no information, your brain is comatose and on its way to being dead. For the brain to function, it has to receive information. In the same way, for cells to function properly, they have to receive information on a continuous, ongoing basis. All right, let's talk about heart disease. Here's an interesting fact. More than 50% of people who suffer heart attacks don't even have the usual risk factors. Now, isn't that amazing? This is actually a study done by one of the prestigious universities. And I mean, think about it. I mean, when we think about, oh, he had a heart attack, we think, well, he must have had very high cholesterol. He must have been a smoker. He must have been severely overweight, and he must have been a really type A personality, screaming and shouting at everybody. Well, that is not a usual risk factor, or is it? Anyway, emotional problems are a problem. But think about that. Now, here's what they are finding out more and more and more. The 2 top risk factors for heart attacks are, believe it or not, job dissatisfaction and a low self-happiness rating. Basically, wow. Yeah, isn't that amazing? Basically, this second one there really speaks about your social relationships, how much love you enjoy, and how much social contact. Are you alone? They found out that single people have, divorced people? I know both single people and divorced people have a much higher rate of heart disease, strokes, and hypertension than people who are married. That is another fact. So, job dissatisfaction. Have you ever wondered why the commonest time for a heart attack is at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning?
Yeah, that's interesting.
It is, isn't it? That is really the commonest time for a heart attack. So, and obviously, when you think about it, you realize that most people aren't really happy with their jobs. And so that plays a key role.
And goes along with the stress things we learned last week.
It goes on along with the stress things that we learned last week. And one of my passions in life is really to help people understand, find out what they want to do with their lives. Because the sooner you find out for sure what you want to do, the better it would be for you in every regard, whether it's with your enjoyment of life, whether it's your financial health, or whether it's even your mental and physical health. It's going to affect everything else because you spend the most of your life doing things, working anyway, so might as well spend it doing something you love. All right. What are the diseases that increase? That I just mentioned those 2, but that is not to say that these other factors are negligible. Of course, they're very, very important too. High blood pressure could predispose to heart disease, and the reason for this is this: your blood vessels, your arteries and veins, can only withstand so much pressure. If there's a crack, if there's a slit somewhere, it can only withstand so much pressure. And if a crack could easily deteriorate into a huge gap and eventually could rupture. And so blood pressure has to be controlled at all costs, really. Diabetes also plays a huge role because of the excess sugar in the blood and also the excess insulin in the blood. Both play a huge role in damaging tissues and damaging blood vessels, and could also result in heart disease. Cholesterol and or triglycerides. Cholesterol does play a part, but it is not the way it's exaggerated by the establishment. Obesity, of course, plays a part, and the reason for obesity playing a part is because we are now finding out that excess fat in the body, actually results in the secretion of hormones, which actually increase inflammation, and not just inflammation, but actually cause there to be an increased blood pressure and eventually heart disease.
David, what was that other thing on there? Dyslipidemia? What is that?
Dyslipidemia simply means lipids, of course, refer to fat. This means that they're out of control, out of whack. For instance, we know about HDL, which is the high-density lipoproteins, which is a good cholesterol, and then we have the LDL, which is the quote-unquote bad cholesterol. If they're out of whack, if they're out of balance, then that's what is called dyslipidemia.
Okay, great, thanks.
It is an abnormal metabolism of lipids. Okay. Lifestyles are predisposed to, what does this mean again? This is heart disease, okay? Can't imagine me forgetting this. It's going to come to cardiovascular arterial disease. Okay, excessive alcohol intake, lack of exercise, smoking, stress. One of the most important, though, is depression. Now, folks, research is coming out more and more and more. And this is, I was astounded when I first began to study this. Here's a quote. Depression, first of all, maims the mind, then it kills the body.
Wow.
Research is coming out more and more and more. As a matter of fact, let me tell you this one. It's going to be in the notes too, but they're finding out that if you have had one bout of chronic depression, even if you're free of it, if you have had a bout of chronic depression, it predisposes you to almost a threefold greater chance you're going to have a heart disease. But also, they are also finding out that it actually damages the bones. It actually causes osteoporosis.
Wow.
Now, you would never think that something like depression would affect your bones. I mean, what's the connection, for Pete's sake? But they're finding it out. They're finding it out more and more and more. And I'll probably mention a little bit about that before this is over. Smoking and heart disease. Cigarette smoking is the leading preventable cause of death among both women and men in the United States. Smoking more than doubles CAD incidence and increases CAD mortality by approximately, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank here, 70%. Okay, I'll go to the next one. All right, let's talk about the cholesterol issue. In the past few years, close to a decade now, there's been this explosion of information about cholesterol being the culprit. If you want to save yourself from heart disease, if you want to save yourself from hypertension, you want to reduce your cholesterol at all costs. Now, one of the problems is that they've been reducing this cholesterol. I mean, at one time it was like if you have anything above 250, you're at risk. And then they brought it down to 200. Now I had in my class, I teach a class at the college, in my class, this lady says she walked into a doctor's office and she had a cholesterol level of 121, and the doctor says she's at risk, that she's borderline and she might need to start anti-cholesterol medications.
Wow.
Now, here's the problem. The problem is that, and we showed that picture earlier on. I don't know if it's still there. Yeah, okay, it's right here. If you just focus on the symptom or the problem, which is high cholesterol, and now, folks, there's been a lot of research out there that actually show that cholesterol may not really be the main culprit. We're going to tell you what that main culprit is in a little while. But speaking about cholesterol-lowering drugs, they found out that most cholesterol-lowering drugs, especially the statins, actually not only do they affect the cholesterol, but they deprive the body, the cells of the body, of a very key nutrient, a key chemical, I think it's a protein called